Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast. And gosh, this has kind of been in the making here for some time now, David. Do you want to just introduce yourself to the audience a little bit about who you are and your company, what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. David Dulany with Tenbound, and we work with sales teams in the Silicon Valley and the tech industry on their sales process, training, and coaching, and also with their technology. So doing technology implementations with all the new sales technology that's being released to help them kind of figure out how to leverage that and use it to the best of their ability. So happy to be on.
Hey man,
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being here. Well, you're definitely in familiar territory with us. The shed industry sort of seen a boom of tech platforms hit the industry, both internally and externally. We just interviewed friends of the show they had come from Silicon Valley. They're in Pennsylvania now, digital shed builders, sort of a newer 3D configurator to hit the industry. And it seems like week after week, we're seeing just more tech platforms hit. And it's something that we've talked about in trade publications. It's something we've talked about here on the podcast. Why do you think it's here to stay? First of all, right? Like the tech platforms they're here to stay. They're only growing. They're only doing more. Why is that in the world of sales, or do we see that so much?
Yeah, it's interesting because if you think about the salesperson, the older stereotype of a salesperson, it's very much like an art. They're like a black art, and they would go out, and the good ones would somehow bring in the deals, or if you're out on a lot, there's the reliable salesperson who brings in the deals day after day, month after month. And a lot of it was like a black box almost, this art of sales and persuasion and, being able to move a deal forward. And, at the same time, what's happened over the last probably 20 years or so is that, a lot of sales has moved to inside sales. So it's more over the computer, what we're doing right now over the computer and over the phone. And the behaviors of the salespeople can start to be tracked more. And especially when you add, the whole software industry where everything is tracked and organized, and reported on. People started to look at the sales process and go, wait a minute, like we can track, basic activities like the number of phone calls and the number of emails and stuff like that. But we can also start to track, why are some salespeople better than others? And once people started to like work on that problem, it's almost like sales went from art to art and science, because it's like now we can kind of apply like a scientific methodology to figure out why some people are good at sales and some people are not. And then at the same time, the tools started to come up that would assist the salesperson, literally while they're having a phone call or while they're talking to somebody. And especially inside sales, a little box can pop up and literally guide a salesperson through a conversation based on data that they're going to be more successful if they use that. And, it's this technology has grown, tremendously over the last few years. And now people are just like, I'm trying to figure out, is this right for me? Should I invest in this for my sales team? Is it set up correctly? Or, is it like too much? Is it just confusing people with all these tools? And that's kind of where we play.
Yeah. How did you guys kind of enter into that space? you probably didn't major in sales in college because it didn't exist, or I say sales, I guess marketing does, but they're two different things. So, yeah, a lot of times when you're a small company, the sales manager and the marketing manager and the social media manager and all that, you're all one guy. You all wear one hat. But how did you guys kind of enter into that space? What's the path that kind of led you there?
Oh my gosh. I mean, this is like ancient history, right? But how does it get into sales? I mean, it's changing now, but back in the day, it was like, what do you want to do with your life? And a lot of people kind of back into sales because it's like, okay, if you can sell and you're good at it, you can make a pretty good living, right? So that's how I got into it. And I'm from the Bay Area here in California, and it's just everything's tech, and this is going back, like I said, like 20 years ago. Getting into the tech industry was sort of the road to riches, and so a lot of people get into sales. They haven't necessarily studied it or anything like that, and you find out pretty quick if you can make it or not. and if you can make it, then you can make a pretty good living. And so at the same time, when I started in sales in the tech industry, we had Salesforce.com. That was the big piece of technology that made a huge difference in our industry. And Salesforce.com started to offer other tools to plug into it to support it. And so they released a app store where you could literally just sort of browse like solutions to the problems that you were having as you went through your day in Salesforce. And that became its own sort of sub industry of these plugins for all the different parts of the sales process. And then not to go into too much of a history lesson, but
you're good.
Yeah, it became dirt cheap to start a software company for a variety of reasons. And so all these really bright people started to work on sales as a problem that they wanted to solve through software. And so there was an explosion, of companies that you could just plug in, and any part of the pain of being a salesperson, they've identified and offered solutions. So if you're not good at cold calling, there's 10 companies that can help you more than that can help you become a better cold caller. If your data is out of date, there's 10 companies out there that can update all the names and phone numbers. And, there's just this whole ecosystem of sales technology that's grown up, and it's there to help support salespeople.
Are you looking for a software system to help run your entire business? Then you need to check out the Dealer Management System, brought to you by RTO National. The DMS has a point of sale center where you can complete cash, credit card, lease, or finance sales all in one place, and an inventory module where you can manage your inventory and even push it to your website. One of the coolest features is the Transportation Center. You can schedule, edit, and finalize all transportations with a calendar and a map view, and have driver-specific views with note communications, and an electronic delivery sheet with photo upload. Having all of this data in one place allows the DMS to populate data charts, consolidate reporting, and help you easily track sales trends to make faster and better decisions. The best part is that you can review and finalize in-process deals for payment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Call 833-588-1802 or click the QR code to schedule a demo today. No, I think it's Salesforce, yeah, I definitely, there's just so much conversation that happens around it. But it was a growing period. One of the, for sales, and really we need some of that establishment in sales. Here on the podcast, we try to always represent the seller, the manufacturer, the hauler, those that kind of help supply the industry. And really it kind of bleeds over into accessory buildings, David. I mean, there's wide span buildings, metal buildings, carports, and there's a lot of nuance that comes along with the shed industry, like greenhouses and chicken coops and you name it. I mean, there's somebody selling something on a shed lot everywhere. And I mean, there's a shed lot in all 50 states, there's probably a shed manufacturer in all 50 states, I'm sure. But we have some concentrated areas and some fragmentation around the country of particular places. But for every ceiling that we think we're getting ready to hit, it turns glass quickly and we shatter and find a new top. We really thrived as an industry during COVID specifically, because people were at home. They needed either backyard offices or they were working in their backyard and, oh, look, we need a new shed or whatever it is. But tech has just kind of exploded onto the scene. If you were to leave the shed industry and sales and you were to go to the car industry or you were to go to any industry selling mobile homes, I mean, I'm trying to think of like anything that like might be a quasi type branch off of sheds, even though it's just sort of, a lot of our salespeople might have previous experience in that or go to that, get that experience. Tech is just like exploding in all areas of sales process. So that's why we would see it hitting our industry just as much. Back in the day, it was location, location, location. But now it's like your location only on a, you need eyeballs on you from a tech perspective, not just driving down the road in the car. So we're kind of in this weird moment where it's like, yes, you still like good location and all that still works and it brings in the customers that are comfortable with purchasing that way. But you really need almost this, I used to always laugh because people always called it the information superhighway, right? And that's kind of what the internet was doing. It was the information superhighway. And on that highway, your location is how socially present are you as a company. That's the way I take it, but feel free to correct me.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, and it's really coming back to like knowing your customers and how they find out about sheds and how they interact in their daily life. If your customers are 100, all just people driving by and seeing a billboard and that's how they come in. And then and you're getting them in that way. And you talk to them and you're like, that's how they found out about the company and how it became a customer. Great. They're double down on that. I think, where people, sometimes miss with sales technology is the salesperson is, having a bad day and their numbers are down and they're just like, hey, I found out about this thing and, AI, it's supposed to help me, make my number. And they want the manager to buy the technology. And sometimes, it goes through and sure, it makes a difference. There's no silver bullet that's going to suddenly skyrocket your sales if you buy an app or something like that. But what can happen is you plug it in, you start paying the subscription, and after a while you realize okay, the honeymoon's over, and it's like this actually isn't helping my sales, and now we're just stuck with this subscription and we got to pull it out. That's it's kind of being thoughtful about plugging in the sales technology based on how the customers find out about you and how they're coming in versus just looking at this as oh, it's going to solve all my problems if I plug in this software, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot more to it. AI, you kind of touched on that. I noticed you've got AI taking notes here. I think about AI with Snapchat. You know, all the conversation I've had this week about the My AI on that was released on Snapchat, and oh no, people are getting messages and where do you feel like AI is really gonna? I mean, we've had some guests on to talk about AI and AR and Chat GPT and different things like that. Where do you think it's going to play a role ultimately in sales? I'm so curious to see what AI ends up doing specifically in our industry.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I kind of look at it like an Iron Man suit, the Jarvis, where with sales, especially, there's still that art and the human connection and the being able to persuade and kind of connect the dots for people and create a relationship. And I don't see that going away anytime, in the future. But having that Iron Man suit where you can say, what's the best route to get to, this customer, or, how do I think about, the top 5 problems that might be identified, in this customer's latest analyst report or something like that. I mean, just the stuff that, you're not going to want to spend hours and hours preparing, for example, for a sales call. The AI can just supply it for you and do that grunt work so that you can, really focus on creating a relationship. I'm starting to use it myself. Yeah, like you said, we've got a AI, note taker on the call today, and the note taker will record everything, analyze any to-dos, that I have to do, give me a quick summary of what we talked about, and then even schedule a meeting, on my calendar to look at the to-dos and make sure that I did everything that I said I was going to do. So stuff like that is great, because otherwise, as a typical salesperson, I would get off the call and forget about everything and go off and meet with my next customer. Now it's almost like I've got a traveling assistant, that is right here with me.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's like you said, you can't ever replace the human experience in a process, in any process that I can think of. Writing books, taking notes, making a sale. We're just in a strange time in history where we're kind of marrying the two. It seems, and I don't know. I don't ever think it's ever going to be completely AI generated on everything we do and take away jobs or take away the human experience in the process. It's really just embracing it. I don't know. I always liken it to things like every company is going to mature. There was a time where we had full service gas stations. Now we do self-serve. So there's so many different, I don't know. There's just so many different cool things that happen in technology, and understanding them is the key to how you can use them for things like sales. So let's talk a little bit about sales development. Let's talk about SDRs. Most people hear SDR, and I follow several sales podcasts, and I hear the term SDR thrown around a lot. And I ask myself, with the fragmentation of our industry, probably our larger big box stores, bigger companies probably have professional SDR development, maybe. But if not, tell me about where the sales person and the SDR kind of plays a role in promoting the product. When you think about sheds, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, and just for everyone's knowledge, if you haven't heard of SDR, it stands for Sales Development Rep, and it came about with the advent of like subscription technology, especially with Salesforce. Salesforce was actually the kind of the pioneer of the current way that a lot of sales teams are structured in the tech industry. And so basically you have the salesperson is broken out into, not the literal salesperson, but the function is broken out into three distinct parts that align with the selling a subscription. So the sales development rep is at the front end of that process. Then they hand over to the account executive who's in the middle, and then they hand it over to the customer success representative who maintains the subscription. And you can look at it almost like a factory line. And so the SDR's job is to be the cold calling, door knocking, inbound lead qualification representative who's just spending time making contact with people in your target market and getting them interested in speaking with a salesperson. And they spend their whole day doing that. And in a perfect world, they're queuing up qualified meetings for the account executive who then will, take that meeting and create a sales pipeline and close a deal. And once they close that deal, then they hand it over to the customer success rep. So that's how it's set up in most software companies on their sales team. And it's in different industries. It's set up in similar ways. They just might call it something different. But you may have heard of like telemarketing, inside salesperson, and appointment setter. There's all these different ways to describe, what they're doing. But it's essentially, taking all the stuff that you do in marketing at a high level and whittling it down to a meeting, with a qualified prospect so that the salesperson can close that deal. And the in the tech industry, it's in a perfect world, the salesperson, the actual AE, doesn't have to do a lot of their own manual labor prospecting and cold calling because they're getting either inbound leads directly from the marketing team or meetings set up by the SDR team. So they can spend more time on doing actual sales activities versus prospecting. And so that's kind of how it's set up at most tech companies.
All those words get thrown around so much: marketing, sales, leads, prospecting. I wonder if we ever take the time to break them down individually. Let's just kind of go through sales, and we've mentioned this on the show before, so not to be redundant for the purpose of that, but maybe for a new listener. The sales process and the marketing process are two very different things. Typically in a smaller company, you will just kind of wear that same hat. But how do you break down the sales process versus the marketing process?
Yeah, I think that the easiest way to think about it is marketing is one to many. So it's a message that you're sending out to the whole market that you're trying to identify and to influence. And then sales is many to one. So you're sitting down one to one with an individual and having a conversation and helping them to solve their problems. And it's important to think about it that way. So marketing is really, you're identifying the target market, you're identifying the people that actually make the decisions in that target market, and then identifying their pain points and what problems that they're trying to solve, and putting out like a mass message to be able to get as many of those people to raise their hand, come to the lot or come to your website and take some kind of activity. And then at that point, if they have raised their hand or there's some kind of interest there, then it becomes the sales process, and sales takes over from that point.
I love your one to many and many to one metaphor. That's good. I think so. I mean, one thing that I've realized in doing Shed Geek podcast is, I didn't go to school for marketing. I went to school for business. I always wanted to be in business. And then I remember people saying, "What do you want to do?" And it was like, gosh, I don't know. I want to be in business, but what does that mean? Does that mean I want to run someone's business? Does that mean I want to be an entrepreneur? Because the entrepreneurial spirit is very free. And I don't know about you, but I tend to say that entrepreneurs are, the last refuge of freedom seekers that we have. To me, it's you aim for freedom is the key. And that's the target that you want to hit. And, that target sometimes involves making money, travel, all these other things. I have stumbled upon something in my life, David, that I didn't realize in doing the Shed Geek podcast is that I actually enjoy marketing. And it's not something that I've ever meant to do, but I've had to market myself to this industry, to the shed industry. And for that reason, it's been kind of a unique journey in actually getting calls for like consultation, and people asking. I like the Zig Ziglar, quote, get any, and I'm going to butcher this, so let's call it a paraphrase, but you can have anything you want in life as long as you can help others get what they want. So for me, it's been about providing value, put the value out first and do things like that. And for that very reason, I never, ever anticipated getting into marketing until I woke up one day and said, I'm already there. I'm already doing that. It's what I've had to do to have a successful podcast in the industry. But then there's this very challenging part of our industry that says, how do you work in the industry and how do you service the industry? But I'm just putting it out there, believing in myself and that I can do this. I believe people buy from people they trust. And sorry, this is a long rant just to say that the ultimate goal, maybe not the ultimate goal, but one of the goals that I intend to seek and I'm going to launch very, very soon here in 2023 is Shed Geek Marketing. So that instead of just offering that value, a lot of times to the customers, I've not found a way to service my listeners. I guess what I'm trying to say is like I brought all these companies to them. They can do that, but I hadn't found a way to service a lot of times the listeners. So I just jumped in, man. Went ahead and started it and got it going. And here within a few weeks, I'll be launching it. It may even be out before this podcast shows up. We've got so much content right now, but just trusting that the listeners will hear my heart, and if they want to find out more about those services, that they'll reach out. Now that I got my sales pitch out of the way for my marketing,
there you go.
What does Tenbound focus on? You mentioned at the beginning of the show that you help people understand software a little bit more. Can you touch on that just a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and with all the tools that are coming out, there's a lot of confusion also, and we really want to be able to offer some clarity to people so that they can understand, what's the landscape, what are all these software tools that are coming out to help people, and what might be the right one for me, based on what problem people are trying to solve. So that's like on our website, we have a directory of all the big tools, and we put a map together, and then we put out, blog posts and different information about what are all these things and what do they do? What do they do to help, salespeople? And then, if people want to get more more into it and access, the premium material, then we've got, of course, Tenbound Plus, which I'll give my spiel, which is they get sort of the premium access to all the tools and the frameworks and the playbooks and everything to be able to implement this stuff themselves. If they need even more hand-holding and advice, then we offer that as well. So,
hey guys, this is the Shed Geek, and I'm here to tell you about the latest in financial innovation to hit the shed industry. It's a program called Backyard Finance. Everywhere I go, shed manufacturers and shed sellers are always asking, how can I get a better payment option for my customer? At Backyard Finance, they're making this a reality. You might be asking, how do I sign up? Simple, just go to Backyard Finance, click on the Get Started Now button, and create an account. After that, you'll have 200 plus banks competing to give your customer the best financial terms possible. With Backyard Finance, you can service your customers two ways: direct to customer lending or direct to merchant lending. With direct to merchant lending, simply fill out an application. It takes about 2 to 4 weeks to process that application, but it'll allow you a variety of financing options to make you a more competitive retailer. With FICO scores as low as 500, 600, or 700 plus, your customers will receive financing options with APRs as low as 2.99% or as high as 29.99%. Credit applications are approved in just 15 to 45 seconds. To know more, contact Backyard Finance at 833-692-2286 or email info@backyardfinance.com today. Backyard Finance, funding backyard dreams.
It's to be able to make some sense of this market and really understand, how to leverage the technology to earn more sales. So.
Man, I think it's great. Great. Let's talk about SaaS, software as a service. Give me a little bit of detail there.
Yeah, I mean, in the old days, you had to remember those discs you had to buy. If you go way back, we used to get AOL discs, like you'd get one a day into your mailbox. I don't know if anybody knows what that is.
Showing your age there, David.
Yeah, I know.
It's all right.
I know. I can't hide it.
I remember.
Yeah, okay, good. And you literally, like, the younger guys are not going to remember this, but you had to go down to the store and buy a box, to bring home the software, put it in your computer, and run it, and it was immediately outdated, right? So software, what's great about software as a service is it's just like a website, that's available, and you subscribe to the software, and it's always updated. It's always the latest version. You should get good support in using it. And, as long as you keep your subscription payments going, you'll have access to it. And it's made just a huge difference in just the delivery of software and the ability, especially, combined with the mobile phone. 20 years ago, if you were in the shed industry and you needed like a very specialized, piece of software to help you, you may never get a chance to get it because, number one, you didn't know about it. Number two, it's too expensive and it's always outdated and et cetera. Only the big boys, could afford it. Now, you start a shed company and you have a mobile phone, you can get access to the same software as the big companies and be able to leverage it and use it to grow your business. So it's been great.
No,
there is a downside, but we can talk about that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, go for it. Yeah. I encourage you to, the more education that you can bring, I feel like the more value that you can bring, the more value that you can give away. People appreciate that. What are some of the downsides that you have seen?
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of where Tenbound has gone in that, because it's so easy to subscribe to these software programs, you've got individual salespeople, subscribing to things, and you've got the main headquarters subscribing to things, and it becomes, all of a sudden you've got 5 or 6 tools, that are supposed to help you make sales, and some of them are being used and some are not, and there's just like this explosion. There's too many, and people are trying to figure out, who bought this, and is it being used, and are we really making more sales based on the investment that we're making? So there's a little bit of confusion there, and to avoid, anybody who's like newer to this, to avoid that trap is, make like a one person at the company who's in charge of the subscription, licenses. And they're sort of the gatekeeper to all these things. And you can't plug in anything unless you get it approved. And it sounds like, it's business 101, but these things are so easy to find and start using that, if you've got more than a few salespeople, they might be using all these different things that you don't even know about.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot in our own industry. I know you're right, because there are integrations, and there are companies that are always looking to have integrations with other companies. And I think after a while you start to ask yourself, where is the investment paying off versus not doing it? Just being honest with you, and I have lots of advertisers here on the podcast, so I want to make sure that I'm doing them justice, so that they so that people understand their product and how it differs. And the one thing that I know that I've seen in our industry, and this is this isn't where I get canceled, hopefully. But the one thing I've seen in our industry is we don't entertain. I'm walking around it too much. I'm beating around the bush too much here. So it's easier just to say, I don't think we entertain alternatives. I don't think that we even listen. We tend to have sort of a allegiance, which is really good. But then we may not even know about the other product, because we heard something one time, or, that's one thing that I've definitely had to struggle through, whenever I was more involved in direct sales with the industry, is sit down and look at the product and see if it's helpful. See if the service is helpful. A lot of times people will ask me, well, what do you recommend? Well, I sell advertising to multiple platforms. So I say, I recommend the one that works best for you. Find out, talk to them, call them up, do a demo, and if you think it works best for you, if it's helping you, you won't quit. You won't quit the subscription. If it's not helping you, I'll be the first to say, I don't expect you to have an allegiance to me. You have an allegiance to yourself, to your family, to your product, to your brand, so if it's not helping you, move on, but I would say that we don't do that as much in this industry. And I don't know if it's just personal opinion or influence or whatever that does those things, but I encourage you to look at multiple products and find out what works best for you. Because the only way you're going to do that is to do the demos and to actually ask the hard questions, or have someone with you like yourself that says, well, tell me a little bit more about the product and how it works and why it works. And what are you trying to accomplish? I have people ask me all the time, like this, David, I was talking to some guys yesterday about starting a podcast. And they were asking me some questions, and I had a meeting with them. So one of the questions I get the most in having what I would call a fairly successful podcast at this point is, people say, well, I want to do a podcast. What should I do one on? And it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't, right? Because if you don't know what you want to do one on, it might actually hurt your feelings to find out that, people don't want to listen to you as much as you think they want to, just because you're you, right? But if you niche down, right, and you find something that you're really passionate about, like sheds or cars or music or weightlifting or woodworking or whatever it is that you enjoy, and you go all in on that, and you're passionate about that, and you try to uncover every rock about that industry, then I think that you'll have success, because you're actually, success isn't defined by the amount of advertising you get. Success is going to be defined by, like, do you feel like you accomplished your goal? Do you feel like you're talking to the people you want to talk to? Do you feel like you're adding value to people's day? So that's kind of become my advice, even in helping others start podcasts, is do what you're passionate about, because you won't lose that passion after 110 shows or 210 shows. But if you're just doing it because you want to be talking or feel you're interesting, it may actually disappoint you to find that people aren't always as interested in your opinion. I think if I wasn't talking about sheds, I'm like, would people even listen to me?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, because you talked about freedom, and that's sort of the end game of entrepreneurship, is to be able to course your own freedom. And one of the things is you need resources, right?
That's right.
And you need to be able to fuel the thing.
Hey, pull over. I want to take a look at that cool looking shed right there.
That is a sharp looking shed. I've been looking to purchase a shed myself.
Well, stop on in. Let's ask the owner where he got it.
Oh, shucks. It doesn't appear anyone's home. Guess we'll have to come back tomorrow.
Wait. There's a nameplate on that shed. And there's a phone number and a website.
Great. Let's give them a call.
Identigrow, helping identify your shed brand for over 20 years.
And so, if it's almost like a Venn diagram, if you think about the concentric circles, you got to find something that you're really passionate about, that other people, care about too, and can make you some money, so that you can continue to do it. And it's tough. It's really tough. Yeah. And you got to be able to find that niche and run with it. And one thing, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was about to say, go ahead. Marketing snuck up on me in that perspective, David. You know, that like I enjoy talking to people. All of a sudden I start realizing, I mean, I'm becoming well understood and well educated in things like SEO, in things like marketing and sales development, website, development, and how they work and why they work, and the nuance of what they are. And for something I never technology scared me. I would have been your quintessential hardworking redneck that just went to work every day, worked a hard labor, blue collar job, and I don't want to mess with no computer. It's just not for me. I can't understand it. Man, when you embrace something, it's actually kind of amazing at how life has come full circle and changed. And now I'm doing a lot of my edits and stuff like that, or I'll record my own commercials and edit them, and all of a sudden I started finding these things aren't as intimidating, and they were meant to be tools to help. Gosh, what a relief to actually embrace it and to learn it and to learn to overcome it as opposed to be afraid of it. So anything tech now, I just almost want to know more about.
Yeah. I mean, there's just been such a shift, over the last, few decades where, and it's really up to people. I mean, if you're making a good living and you just don't want to deal with it, then that's fine. Just go for it. It's totally your choice. But, I think the days of I'm just going to do my job and keep my head down and grind it out, that as long as it's working, that's fine. But at some point, if the job disappears because of technology, or your skills have gone gone extinct, and you're kind of stuck. You in our current situation, like you got to take ownership and figure out like what can I control in this situation, and upskill myself to be able to make a living, and not just sit there and hey, I do it. Put on some country music and go down to have a drink or something like that. You gotta like you might have to upskill and start to learn these things. And to your point, like maybe you might find a whole nother career that you really enjoy that's out there, because there's a lot of cool stuff happening right now with the tech industry. So yeah.
You're in the hub of that there in Silicon Valley. You see a lot of that.
Yeah.
What are some of the cool things that you see coming out that are affecting things like sales development from a tech perspective?
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. I mean, so it literally, like right now, anybody on the call, if there's a pain point that they're having with their sales or their marketing or, any of that, business building, there is a software out there that could potentially help you. And you can bring that to the bank. If you try to go out and find it and you can't find it, give me a call, because I can probably at least point you in the right direction. So if you think about it, like there's these tools out there that can help you, and they're amazing tools that can put you on the same level as the bigger companies, and they're pretty cheap. I mean, they're not crazy expensive. That they pay for themselves in selling, 2 or 3 sheds or something like that. Or I don't know what the margins are, but they're not like $25,000, to implement some tool. It's maybe $12 a month or something like that. So that for me is really exciting. Making it available to your average Joe who runs a company, and giving you the same power as your competitors, or maybe even get you ahead of your competitors, because if they don't have, the latest technology, they're still, Southwest Airlines, right? I was stuck in Kansas City. I love Kansas City. Okay. I'm not dissing it at all, but we had already been there for a week at my in-laws' house. And we were ready to get back to California for all the problems that California has. We were done with, and Southwest Airlines completely crashed. And if you look into that, oh, dude, it was a nightmare. And they were running like software from the 80s on like Windows XP. And like I said, the younger guys probably don't even know what that is, but I mean, it was such a joke, and it came down to the fact that they're so cheap and so resistant to change, that they were still running these old systems, and finally the whole thing burnt down and cost them however much, and and stuff like that. So I'm not saying that anybody on the call is at that point, but it's an exciting time. There's a lot of technology out there that could potentially help, and it's worth looking into.
And there was a lot of warnings, I think, from internal there at Southwest. Excuse me, this sinus stuff just gets the best of me. Yeah, there was a lot of internal warnings for a long time where the employees were saying we knew this was coming because of lack of participation in certain programs and things like that. They had a good price. They had great customer service. I think Southwest has some of the best customer service you could ever experience. But yeah, man, gosh, I'm just
so bad for those guys.
Oh yeah, for sure. The employees,
it was terrible.
Yeah, the employees especially.
And just one last thing about that for the listeners. It mainly comes down to and we talked about this, but how do your customers right now find out about you, and then how do they kind of get into your funnel? How do they end up on the lot, or how do they end up on your website or calling your 800 number? So just take a step back, and if you're not talking to them to understand how they're finding out about you, then you don't really know how to go out and get more of them and get in front of them and start talking to them because you're just kind of assuming how they're finding out about you, and it could be that you never know. I mean, maybe they're finding out about sheds on Instagram, and you need to run Instagram ads and have a form, and then have them call you from there. So start with the customer, and then build the technology back from the customer.
That's a good word. Start with the customer, build the technology back. I like that. Man, appreciate having you on today. It's just it's a simple conversation. It's maybe a way to encourage people to do more, to want to do more. What I love about our industry is it's an industry that trust. They do a lot built off trust. So it's very important to keep your word. And that's one thing I've appreciated is, and want to try to continue to do. Exciting times for myself. Never saw myself even 6 months ago, getting into sort of the marketing side and that being, and I don't mind just a quick commercial if you don't care, David, from website development to professional videography, to Google ads, meta ads, animation. I mean, there's just a lot that we're going to be able to tackle. So been building this quietly for that purpose. Want to work with you more, Shed Industry. You have been amazing to me and my family. I hope you'll embrace that. If it's a failed adventure that I don't feel like the Lord would have me on, then I would move on quickly. And otherwise, I want to continue to try to find a way to service this industry, meet such good people. David, you might not know this. Me and my wife just bought an RV, and we're like literally hitting the road. So at some point we'll be out in California. Maybe we'll swing by and see you. But we're visiting shed and accessory building lots, carports, sheds, any place that sells sheds, manufactures sheds, services sheds in some way. If it's got anything to do with that or the accessory building industry, we're going to be visiting them over the next couple of years because we just want to hit the road, spend our time together, and do something really fun. And so who knows? Maybe I'll end up out there. There's so many ideas that come out of Silicon Valley. Me and Jeff Huxman, the owner of Shed Hub, we talk about that a lot. How there's just constant, for all the bad things that we Midwesterners like to pick on California about, there's a lot of forward thinking there, especially
completely justified
in terms of the tech industry specifically. So it's just a matter of managing that, from our perspective and how that affects family, community, because all of those things are very important to, I know, this industry and to myself as well. So if people wanted to get a hold of you, if they wanted to use your counsel, your brain and your experience to say, tell me a little bit more about this, or where are places that I can go, how would they reach out to you?
Yeah, tenbound.com. So it's tenbound.com. And just get on the newsletter. That's probably the best way to stay informed, because we do little vignettes about the different technologies and, how to make more sales and, how to set up your sales team and just little how-tos and stuff like that. And then feel free to give me a call if you have any questions about anything.
Perfect. And that's, they can sign up for the newsletter through the website.
Yeah. Yep. That's all free. There's a ton of free, information on there about this whole sales technology space and stuff like that. So, the newsletter is probably the best way to just stay informed about it.
That's great, man. Hey, want to give a shout out to Easy Portable Buildings on here today too. I noticed I was wearing my, my Easy shirt. They were one of the companies that I sold for early on, and always appreciated Trent and Burnett, Andrew Cottrell for all that they did for me. And Trent was the one that got me hooked on the Little Red Book of Sales by Jeffrey Gitomer. And man, that has turned out to be a lifesaver in my sales process. So thanks, Trenton. Definitely appreciate that. I want to make sure to always try to give shout outs to the industry for supporting me so much. David, 52 minutes goes by crazy fast. I just want to chat with you for a minute when we get off here. So I'm going to stop recording, but appreciate you being on the show today. It really means a lot, and look forward to getting to know you more on more adventures.
Got it. Thank you.